Hello, my name is Juan Carlos Hernandez Suarez, and this is my case presentation for the Language Curriculum Development course. In previous assignments at this course, we were supposed to do a case study where we analyzed a case of language curriculum development at a certain institution based on the problems that we saw in the initial reading for this course. I chose the case of the learning guides for the English competency at the CIMI Training Center of SENA, which is where I work, and I found that they have a very notorious language curriculum design issues that they are related to the problems identified in the initial reading, mostly that there is an inconsistency between the aims, the philosophical foundations of the institution, and the philosophical foundations of the methodology that the guides follow. So, uh, this is the same curriculum I choose for this final case presentation, and let's take a look at it. The competency is interacting in English language in an oral and written manner in a social and laboral context, according to the criteria established for the Common European Framework of Reference for Languages. It has 6 learning outcomes. Understand basic information in English about themselves, about people, and about their immediate context in present realities and life stories. Describe people, situations, and places in English in an oral and written manner according to their customs and life experiences. Participate in basic conversational exchanges in an oral and written manner in English in different social situations, but in everyday life and past experiences. Carry out improvement actions related to the exchange of basic information about themselves, other people, their immediate context, and their experiences. Communicate in a simple way in English in an oral and written manner with a visitor or colleague in an everyday laboral context, and put into action basic vocabulary and common expressions in their occupational area in specific contexts in their job through the usage of simple phrases in an oral and written way. I chose to evaluate this curriculum using this checklist, which has the following categories: statement of the goals, pertinence of the goals, statement of learning outcomes, pertinence of learning outcomes, structure, methodological approach, context, learning evaluation. So, it grades these categories from 0 to 2 points. 2 points indicates that it was completely achieved. 1 point indicates it was partially achieved. 0 points indicate that it was not achieved. So the maximum score is 16 points, and the curriculum I evaluated got a total score of 11 points. So let's take a look at the reasons why. Uh, some of the strengths of the curriculum have to do with the goal, which in this case is the competency, which is completely consistent with both the goals of the educational program at SENA and with the philosophy of the institution and its methodologies, which SENA is an institution which prioritizes what is called competency-based learning, where the apprentice is supposed to achieve a number of competencies in all the different areas. These competencies indicate if the student has learned all the skills and all the knowledge they need to approve the program. Uh, the methodology at Sena prioritizes what is called learning to learn, learning to do, and learning to be, with a special emphasis on learning to do. The courses at Sena emphasize learning through the development of productive projects and the creation of products. In the case of English, this can be stuff like writing materials or dialogues or presentations, etc. And learning to learn emphasizes that the um apprentice needs to acquire the skills necessary for self improvement. So, I also found that the learning outcomes are very pertinent to these philosophical foundations and to the goals of the curriculum, and also that they are very focused on the three pillars: learning to learn, learning to do, and learning to be, and that they present a very clear sequence of increasing complexity and difficulty, but it's a smooth increase, which is very good, and that by achieving all the six learning outcomes, the apprentice achieves the competency. So that's very good. It has a very clear progression with a very clear goal. What are the weaknesses? Some of the learning outcomes aren't very clearly measurable and aren't reflected in the evaluation assignments and the evaluation criteria. For example, the fourth one, it's not exactly easy to determine how to judge if the apprentice carries out improvement actions related to the exchange of basic information. So I think this learning outcome needs to be redefined to give a better idea of how it can be evaluated. Also, the methodological approach of the guide is inconsistent with the SENA methodology. SENA methodology emphasizes autonomous learning. The apprentice is supposed to learn by doing, by participating, by using their critical thinking skills, in this case by interacting with other apprentices instead of by getting a direct explanation from the instructor. But the activities proposed by most of the guides emphasize a direct explanation followed by repetition through several exercises, including multiple choice exercises and filling the gaps, etc., which don't really correspond with, with learning these skills, acquiring these skills through real world usage in real situations. So it's a methodology that isn't aligned with the methodology of SENA. Uh, I also found some problems with the contents of the guides, mostly that some of the contents don't really take into account the background of the apprentices. Uh, Most of the apprentices at Sena are young adults. Some of them are older adults, some of them are teenagers, but most apprentices are young adults, which means that they really need to be taught like young adults. But some of the materials aimed at teaching most of the basic concepts, such as the alphabet, the numbers, etc., look like they're aimed at children, which creates a disconnect between the demographic of the course and the materials. So it's necessary to create learning materials that teach these basic concepts in a way that's better suited for adults, for teenagers, and not for children. Also, the guide doesn't really contain all the knowledge that is necessary to achieve all of the learning results. Um, the competency and the learning outcomes emphasize uh, the exchange of information in personal and laboral uh, situations, but the contents of the guide only really apply to personal situations, not really to laboral ones. They don't include, for example, uh, vocabulary or grammar or useful phrases related to situations that might come up in at work, or the vocabulary and grammar related to the apprentice's professional formation area. So that's a problem because the learning outcomes requires the apprentice to acquire this knowledge, but the guide doesn't contain it. So the guide needs to be redesigned to include all this knowledge. And lastly, the evaluation assignments do involve the exchange of information, but often in a very rigid way, in a very rigid format, such as a class presentation or um, a written report or uh, a rehearsed dialogue. They don't really present with situations where the student needs to react to new information and adapt what they're trying to communicate based on this new information, and they don't really require the ability to adapt and to build new information on the fly, to make connections between concepts, about only the exchange, the repetition of the information that the student already practiced beforehand. So it would be pertinent to redesign the evaluation assignment to require this kind of knowledge, because this knowledge is required by both the competency and the learning outcomes. For example, we could use forum discussions where the student is required to uh, express their opinion and react to your classmates' opinions, stuff like that, so that they really need to communicate and to develop these communication skills in a real context. Okay, so those are the weaknesses I identified in this program and how I think they can be solved. So I want to do a little reflection about this course. I really enjoyed this course, and I think it was very important for me because I really used to think that curriculum only referred to like the activities and the contents to be taught in class, but this course made me see that it goes way beyond that. That curriculum includes everything from the sociocultural and socioeconomic context of the student and how to respond to that context, to the philosophical foundations of the institution, and choosing a methodology that's appropriate for those philosophical foundations. I think it's an excellent course that really helped me to shake off some of my preconceptions. Okay, that's all I had to say. My name is again Juan Carlos Hernandez Suarez, and thank you for your attention.